I was 8 months pregnant, standing in my own living room, when my husband walked through the door with his mistress and told me to pour them wine, like I was the help. Scott thought I was too fragile to fight back, too dependent to matter. What Scott didn't know, what his mistress was about to learn the hard way, was that the helpless, pregnant wife he'd been humiliating for months controlled every biker who kept him breathing. And in my world, disrespect doesn't get warnings. It gets erased. Welcome back to stories where karma doesn't knock. It kicks the door down. If you're ready to watch a cheater's world implode in the most satisfying way possible, you're in exactly the right place. Now, let's begin. My name is Susan Waller, and I made a choice I can't take back. I fell in love with a man who saw my quiet strength and mistook it for submission. 8 months ago, I was someone completely different. I was the silent controller of the biker syndicate that runs protection across 3 states. The woman who negotiated truces between rival crews before she could legally drink. The strategist who once ended a turf war with a single phone call. Then I met Scott Waller at a charity gala downtown. Ambitious, charming, successful. He made me laugh. Made me feel like maybe I could have something normal. Like maybe I didn't have to live in the shadows of leather and engines forever. So I stepped back. I left the clubhouse. I stopped taking calls. I walked away from everything I'd built. "You're making a mistake, Queen," my enforcer warned me the night I left. "Men like him don't love women like you. They love the fantasy of controlling you." I didn't listen. I married Scott 4 months later, got pregnant 3 months after that, and slowly watched the man I loved transform into someone I didn't recognize. He started coming home late, started looking at my growing belly with resentment instead of wonder, started speaking to me like I was his assistant, not his wife. And tonight, he brought her home. I heard the door open, 2 voices, his and a woman's. When they walked into the living room, I was folding baby clothes on the couch, the same couch where Scott and I once talked about building a family. She was stunning. Red dress, confident walk, the smile of a woman who thought she'd already won. "Susan," Scott said, not even meeting my eyes. "This is Deloris. Pour us some wine." Not a question, a command. Deloris's eyes traveled over my swollen belly, my bare feet, my oversized sweater. Pity mixed with triumph. "Don't worry," she whispered to him, loud enough for me to hear. "You said she's too weak to leave anyway." My baby kicked hard against my ribs, and for the first time in 8 months, I smiled, because they had no idea who they were standing in front of. Following the awakening smile moment. Scott didn't know that before I became his wife, I was the invisible hand that brokered deals between rival biker crews. That I understood loyalty, leverage, and silence better than most men twice my age. That I'd walked away from that world to give my child a peaceful life. But I never stopped being who I was. I just stopped showing it. And tonight, watching Deloris sit where I used to sit, touching my husband like he was hers to claim, something inside me shifted. Not broke. Shifted. The woman Scott thought he'd tamed? She was about to wake up, and when she did, his entire world would collapse. If you're already hooked by this power move, hit that subscribe button. Because Scott's about to discover that underestimating a quiet woman is the last mistake a man makes. The phone buzzed during church. That's what the club called it. The weekly sit-down where decisions got made, territories got divided, and problems got solved. No phones, no interruptions, just leather, smoke, and the kind of silence that came before violence. Marcus Reaper Holt felt the vibration against his chest pocket and ignored it. He was listening to Crow argue about a shipment route when it buzzed again. Then a third time. The room went quiet. Everyone knew Marcus's phone only rang for 2 reasons, money or blood. And during church, It was always blood. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Unknown number. The message loaded. He took Mum. I'm alone in the dark. Please. If anyone sees this, help me. Marcus's jaw tightened. Wrong number. Had to be. But something in the words made him pause. The desperation wasn't manufactured. This wasn't some prank or scam. This was real fear. He typed back quickly. Who took her? The reply came seconds later. I don't know. Men. 3 of them. They broke in. There's blood. I'm hiding. 1247 Riverside Drive. The address hit him like a fist. Riverside Drive. Susan's street. Marcus stood so fast his chair scraped across concrete. Every head in the room turned. Church is over, he said, his voice flat and cold. Crow frowned. Boss, we're not done. I said it's over. Marcus was already moving toward the door, scrolling through his contacts. Gear up. Now. What's going on? Tank asked, rising from his seat. Marcus ignored him, his fingers flying across the screen. He pulled up Susan's number, called it, straight to voicemail. He tried again. Nothing. His pulse hammered, but his face stayed stone. He typed back to the unknown number. What's your name? Emma. I'm 16. Please hurry. I heard them say they're coming back. Emma. Susan's daughter. Marcus's mind raced, piecing it together. Susan had a teenage daughter. He'd never met her. Susan kept that part of her life sacred, separate from the world she used to control. But he knew she existed. Knew Susan had walked away from the syndicate to give the girl a normal life. And now someone had taken Susan. Someone had broken into her home. Someone had made the fatal mistake of thinking she was unprotected. Tank, Crow, Blade. Marcus's voice cut through the murmur of confused riders. With me. Everyone else, stay on comms. I want eyes on every crew in a 50-mile radius. Find out who's moving tonight. What are we rolling into? Crow asked, already pulling on his cut. A rescue. Marcus's eyes were ice. And an execution. He typed as he walked, his boots echoing in the hallway. Emma, listen carefully. Lock every door. Stay exactly where you are. I'm coming. Her response came immediately. Who are you? Marcus paused at the clubhouse door. Through the window, he could see his crew already firing up their bikes, headlights cutting through the darkness. He thought about Susan. About the woman who'd once saved his life when a rival crew had him cornered in an alley downtown. The woman who'd brokered the peace treaty that kept 3 counties from turning into a war zone. The woman who'd asked for nothing in return except one promise. If I ever need you, you come. No questions. He typed his response. Someone your mother trusted. He pocketed the phone and pushed through the door. The night air was cold, sharp. His Harley roared to life under him, the engine's growl echoing off the clubhouse walls. Tank pulled up beside him. What's the play? 1247 Riverside. 3 hostile. 1 civilian down, 1 civilian hiding. We go in fast, and we go in final. Copy that. Marcus checked his phone one more time, pulled up his contacts, found the name he needed. Victor the Viper Mendez, rival crew leader. The only other player in the city stupid enough to move on protected territory. He didn't call. He sent a single message. You took someone under my protection. You have 20 minutes to return her unharmed. After that, I'm not negotiating. The response came back in seconds. Don't know what you're talking about, Reaper. Marcus's lip curled. Liar. He revved his engine, the sound savage and hungry. Around him, 8 more bikes roared to life. His crew, his brothers, men who'd ride into hell if he asked. He sent one final text to Emma. If they touched her, Nobody makes it out alive. Then he dropped his phone into his pocket, kicked his bike into gear, and tore out of the lot. Behind him, a convoy of headlights followed. The night swallowed them whole, and somewhere across town, 3 men who'd made the worst mistake of their lives had no idea what was coming. Drop a comment right now telling me what you think happens when Marcus arrives, because this rescue mission is about to turn into a reckoning. Emma's phone screen was the only light in the closet. She sat wedged between winter coats that still smelled like her mother's perfume, her knees pulled tight to her chest, trying not to breathe too loud. Outside, the house creaked. Every sound felt amplified. The settling of floorboards, the whistle of wind through the broken front door, the distant hum of a car passing on the street. Her phone buzzed. "Still there?" She typed back with shaking fingers. "Yes, I hear something outside." The reply came instantly. "What kind of something?" "Footsteps. On the porch. How many?" Emma pressed her ear against the closet door, holding her breath. One set, heavy, deliberate. "One person, I think." "Stay silent. Don't move." The footsteps crossed the porch, paused at the threshold. Then the front door, already hanging open from when they'd dragged her mother out, creaked wider. Someone was inside. Emma's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. Her phone buzzed again, but she didn't dare look at it. The screen's glow felt like a searchlight in the darkness. The footsteps moved through the living room, slow, searching. She could hear breathing. Not panicked, calm. Like whoever it was had all the time in the world. A floorboard groaned outside the bedroom. Emma squeezed her eyes shut, prayers she didn't know she remembered tumbling through her mind. The footsteps stopped. Right outside the closet, her phone buzzed. She jabbed at it blindly, silencing it, but not before the sound pierced the quiet. The closet door handle turned. Emma's heart stopped. Then a voice, male, rough, spoke from the other side. "She's not here." A pause. He was on the phone. "Yeah, I checked. Kid probably ran. Want me to sweep the neighborhood?" Silence as he listened. "Copy. I'll wait for you to bring the mom back. We'll use her to draw the girl out." The handle released. Footsteps retreated. Emma waited. 10 seconds, 20, 30, before she dared to breathe again. Her phone lit up. "You still with me?" "Yes, he left. He said they're bringing Mum back here." "Good. That's good." "How is that good?" "Because I know exactly where to find them. Listen carefully. You need to move." "That closet won't hold if they search properly." "Where do I go?" "Master bedroom, north-facing wall. There's a crawl-space panel behind the dresser, low to the ground right side. Push it in, it'll open." Emma stared at the message. She'd lived in this house for 3 years. She'd never known about a crawl space. "How do you know that?" "Because I helped Susan install it. Now move, quietly." Susan. Not your mother. Susan. Emma's fingers hovered over the keyboard. This stranger knew her mother's name, knew the layout of their house better than she did, knew about hidden spaces Emma had never seen. Who was he? But she didn't have time for questions. Battery, 12%. She cracked the closet door open. The bedroom was empty, shadows stretching across the floor. Through the doorway, she could see into the living room, dark except for the pale glow of streetlights through the windows. No movement. Emma crept toward the master bedroom, each step careful, controlled. Her mother had taught her how to move quietly, something Emma had always thought was weird, but now understood. The dresser was heavy. She braced her shoulder against it, pushing slowly, wincing at every scrape of wood against floor. Behind it, exactly where he'd said, was a small panel. She pressed it. It clicked inward, revealing a space just big enough to crawl into. Emma squeezed through, pulling the panel closed behind her. The crawl space was pitch black, barely 3 feet high, stretching back into darkness. She turned on her phone's flashlight. Battery, 9%. She texted quickly. "I'm in. How long until you get here?" 10 minutes. "Stay off the main roads in there. There's a corner in the back left. Insulation is thick. They won't hear you." Emma crawled deeper, finding the corner he described. She curled up, making herself as small as possible. "I'm scared." The response took longer this time. "I know, Emma. But your mother is one of the strongest people I've ever met. And you're her daughter. You're stronger than you think. Just hold on a little longer." Tears blurred her vision. She wiped them away, trying to stay focused. Battery, 7%. She was about to respond when a new message appeared. Different number. Unknown. Her stomach dropped. "Stop texting, or she dies." Attached was a photo. Her mother, bound to a chair, blood on her face, eyes closed. Emma's scream caught in her throat. She typed frantically to Marcus. They know I'm texting someone." The reply was instant. "Don't respond to them. Don't let them know you're afraid. I'm 3 minutes out." What if they kill her? They won't. Not yet. She's leverage. But Emma, no matter what they say, don't tell them where you are. The unknown number sent another message. 60 seconds to reply, little girl, or mommy's time is up." Emma's hands shook so violently she could barely hold the phone. Battery, 5%. Outside, engines roared in the distance, growing closer. Marcus pushed his bike harder, the speedometer climbing past 90. Behind him, his crew followed in tight formation, headlights cutting through the darkness like predators on the hunt. His mind flashed back 7 years. The alley had been a trap. Marcus had been younger then, cockier, running a small crew that thought they could expand into Viper territory without consequences. He'd been wrong. 3 of Viper's men had cornered him behind a warehouse on the south side, guns drawn, escape routes blocked. Marcus had his knife, his fists, and about 30 seconds before they pulled their triggers. Then she'd appeared. Susan Waller. He hadn't known her name yet. Hadn't known anything except that she walked into that alley like she owned it. No weapons visible, no crew backing her up, just absolute certainty in every step. "Gentlemen," she'd said, her voice calm. "You're making a mistake." Viper's men had laughed, until she'd made a single phone call. Within 3 minutes, every supplier Viper relied on had their contracts suspended. Every route he controlled was suddenly contested. Every ally he thought he had went silent. Susan had ended the standoff without a single shot fired. "You're free to go," she told Marcus afterward, studying him like he was a puzzle she was deciding whether to solve. "But understand something. This city has order. Hierarchy. You want to survive? You learn it." "Who are you?" he'd asked. "Someone who prefers stability over chaos." She'd handed him a card with nothing but a phone number. "If you're smart, you'll work with me instead of against the structure." Marcus had been smart. Over the next 2 years, Susan had brokered peace between crews that had been at war for decades. She'd restructured routes so everyone profited without stepping on each other's territory. She'd made the entire city more efficient, more profitable, more controlled. And then, one day, she'd vanished. No warning, no explanation, just a single message. "I'm stepping back. My territory goes to Reaper. Don't look for me." Marcus had honored that request. Until tonight. His phone buzzed. Tank's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Boss, I got the location. Warehouse on Porter Street. Viper's old holding spot." Marcus's jaw clenched. Of course. Viper still thought this was his city. Still thought he could move without consequences. Still thought Susan was just another civilian who'd disappeared into irrelevance. He didn't understand. Susan hadn't left because she was weak. She'd left because she'd chosen something more important than power. But that didn't mean she'd stopped being dangerous. And it sure as hell didn't mean she was fair game. Marcus's voice came through cold and clear over the comms. Porter Street warehouse. Full assault. No survivors. Copy, came the chorus of responses. He could see Emma's house now. 1247 Riverside. Windows dark, front door hanging open like a wound. But he didn't slow down. Emma was safe. Hidden. He'd confirmed that. Susan was the priority now. His phone buzzed. He glanced down. Emma had sent the photo they'd used to threaten her. Susan, bound and bloodied. But Marcus saw something the kidnappers had missed. Susan's eyes weren't closed. They were half open, aware, calculating. A small smile tugged at Marcus's mouth. She wasn't a victim waiting for rescue. She was a predator waiting for the right moment. He texted Emma back. Your mother's alive. Stay hidden. This ends tonight. Then he opened a group message to his crew. They're already dead. They just don't know it yet. The warehouse loomed ahead. Time to remind this city why you never touched what belonged to Susan Waller. Smash that like button if you're ready to watch these kidnappers learn why messing with a biker queen's family is a death sentence. This is about to get brutal. The warehouse door didn't stand a chance. Tank's boot connected with the lock, and the metal frame buckled inward with a shriek of tearing steel. 8 bikers poured through the opening like a flood of leather and rage. Inside, 4 men scrambled for weapons. They were too slow. Crow had the first one on the ground in 2 seconds, knee pressed against his spine, arm twisted at an angle that made bones creak. Blade disarmed the second with a brutal efficiency, grabbed the gun, broke the wrist holding it, and used the man's own momentum to slam him face first into a concrete pillar. The third tried to run. Tank clotheslined him mid-stride. The man's feet flew out from under him, and he hit the floor hard enough to bounce. The fourth, older, gray at the temples, clearly the one in charge, raised his hands slowly. Wait. Let's talk about this. Marcus walked through the shattered doorway, his boots crunching on broken glass. He didn't hurry, didn't raise his voice. He just looked at the man. Where is she? Who? Marcus's punch was surgical. Nose, clean break, the man's head snapping back. Wrong answer. Blood poured down the man's face. Okay, she was here. We moved her. Where? I don't... Crow twisted the arm he was holding. The man beneath him screamed. Porter Street, the gray-haired man shouted. Porter Street warehouse. Viper's moving her there now. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed him the photo Emma had received. This woman. You know who she is? Some housewife. Easy grab. Viper said. Her name, Marcus interrupted, his voice dropping to something colder than ice, is Susan Waller. The color drained from the man's face. No, that's not... Susan Waller disappeared. Years ago. She's not... She disappeared, Marcus confirmed. To raise her daughter. The girl you threatened. The girl you terrified. Recognition dawned in the man's eyes, then horror. Oh God, we didn't know, Viper said she was just... Just what? Marcus crouched down to eye level. Just some woman nobody would miss? Just someone without protection? Please. The man's voice cracked. We'll give her back. Unharmed. I swear. Just let us walk away. You made a teenage girl watch you take her mother. We didn't hurt her. The girl's fine. She's hiding in a crawl space in the dark, terrified you're coming back to kill her. Marcus stood. You think that's fine? The man started to sob. Please, we made a mistake. We'll fix it. Just tell us what you want. Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. How long since Viper left? Blade checked his watch. 10 minutes, maybe 15. He's got a head start. Marcus headed for the door. Tank, Crow, with me. Blade, clean this up. The gray-haired man's relief was visible. Thank you. I didn't say let them go, Marcus said without turning around. I said clean it up. The man's face went white. Blade's smile was all teeth. Marcus was already outside, straddling his bike when Tank caught up. Porter Street's 20 minutes if we push it. Marcus started his engine. Then we push it. His phone buzzed. Emma. Battery 2%. They stopped texting. Are you close? He replied quickly. Stay hidden. On our way. Then to his crew. Viper's got 15 minutes on us. That's 15 minutes Susan's been alone with them. She can handle herself, Crow said. I know. Marcus's eyes were hard. But they don't know that yet. He kicked his bike into gear. And I want to be there when they find out. The engines roared, and the night swallowed them again. Marcus's phone rang as they hit the highway. Unknown number. He answered on speaker, didn't slow down. Reaper. Viper's voice, smooth and confident. We need to talk. No, we don't. I have something you want. You have something I need. Marcus's jaw tightened. I don't have anything of yours. The girl. Emma Waller. She's been texting someone all night. A pause. That someone is you. Ice flooded Marcus's veins. We traced the signal. Took a while, but we got there, and now I know exactly where she's hiding. Behind him, Marcus heard Tank and Crow rev their engines, closing ranks. Here's the deal, Viper continued. I'll trade. The mother for the daughter. Clean exchange. Nobody else gets hurt. You're insane. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, you've got a choice. Susan Waller walks free and I get the girl. Or you can try to save them both and watch me put a bullet in Susan's head before you make it through the door. Marcus's knuckles went white on the handlebars. I've got 6 men at the house right now, Viper said. The girl's in a crawl space behind the master bedroom dresser. Smart hiding spot. Won't help her when we drag her out. Touch her and what? You'll kill me? Viper laughed. You're 20 minutes away, Reaper. I'm 2 minutes from that house. Do the math. The line went dead. Marcus immediately called Emma. No answer. Battery dead, or she was too terrified to respond. He opened the group comm. Change of plans. Half the crew to Porter Street, half to Riverside. Now. Boss, Tank started. They're splitting us. Viper wants us to choose. What's the call? Marcus's mind raced. Porter Street was 15 minutes out. Riverside was 18. If Viper's men were already at the house... His phone buzzed. Text from Emma's number, but not her words. Tick-tock, Reaper. Girl or the woman. Can't save both. If you think you know how this plays out, drop your prediction in the comments, because what happens next will blow your mind. In the crawl space, Emma heard them enter the house. Multiple footsteps this time. Heavy boots, low voices coordinating. Check the bedrooms. Already did. She's not in the obvious spots. Then check the non-obvious ones. Emma's phone was dead, screen black, useless in her trembling hands. The last message from Marcus, stay hidden, felt like a lifetime ago. She heard furniture being overturned, drawers crashing, methodical destruction moving closer to the master bedroom. Boss said there's a crawl space, find it. Her breath caught. Footsteps entered the room above her. The dresser scraped across the floor. Emma pressed herself into the corner, making herself as small as possible, but she knew it was over. The panel clicked. Light flooded in. A face appeared, scarred, cold-eyed, grinning. There you are, A hand reached for her. Emma did the only thing she could think of. She bit down. Hard. The man screamed, jerking back, and Emma scrambled deeper into the crawl space, crawling frantically toward the other end. "Little bitch!" Hands grabbed her ankle. She kicked, connected with something soft. The grip loosened. Emma crawled faster, but there was nowhere to go. The crawl space ended in a wall. She was trapped. The man dragged her backward, and she clawed at the insulation, at the wooden beams, at anything. Then she heard it. Engines. Multiple engines, growing louder. The man heard it too. He froze, listening. "We got company!" someone shouted from the living room. The hand on Emma's ankle tightened. "Come on. You're our ticket out." He pulled her through the panel, hauled her to her feet. Emma struggled, but he was too strong. His arm locked around her throat. Through the bedroom doorway, she could see 2 other men at the windows, guns drawn. "How many?" the one holding her shouted. 4 bikes. No. 6. 8. That's all of them. Viper's intel was good. The scarred man dragged Emma toward the front of the house. "Get the girl to the van. We'll use her to—" The front window exploded. Glass rained down as a brick smashed through, followed by a voice that cut through the chaos like a blade. "You have 10 seconds to let her go." "Marcus." Emma's heart surged. The man holding her pressed a gun to her temple. "Back off or she dies." Through the shattered window, Emma could see him. Tall, leather-cut, face like carved stone. Behind him, a wall of bikers, engines rumbling like thunder. Marcus's eyes met hers. Calm, certain. Then he looked at the man holding her. Wrong answer. The engines revved, all at once. The sound was deafening. And then they came through the doors. The door didn't just open, it exploded inward. Tank came through first, a battering ram in leather, and the man holding Emma made his fatal mistake. He turned his gun toward the threat. Emma dropped, making herself dead weight, and Marcus was already moving. 3 steps, 1 motion. He caught the man's wrist, twisted it backward until the gun clattered to the floor, then drove his elbow into the man's temple. The kidnapper crumpled. Emma scrambled away, and Marcus pulled her behind him, shielding her with his body. "Close your eyes," he said quietly. She did. The next 30 seconds were efficient brutality. Tank hit the second man before he could raise his weapon. Crow disarmed the third with a knife to the shoulder, not fatal, but incapacitating. Blade took the fourth with a headbutt that echoed like a gunshot. No shouting, no hesitation. Just controlled violence that ended as quickly as it started. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was soft. "You can look now." Emma opened her eyes. The kidnappers were on the ground, conscious but broken. Marcus's crew stood over them, weapons ready but not drawn. "You're safe," Marcus said, crouching to her level. "Are you hurt?" Emma shook her head, tears finally breaking free. "My mom. They have my mom." "I know. My other team is with her right now." Viper's mistake was thinking Susan needed rescue. When Reaper's second team, led by Snake and 4 riders, smashed through the warehouse's side entrance, they found 3 of Viper's men already unconscious. Susan stood in the center of the room, wrists still zip-tied behind her back, breathing hard, blood on her lip. At her feet, a 4th man groaned, nursing what looked like a shattered kneecap. Snake stopped, taking in the scene. "Susan?" She looked up, and for a moment the exhaustion in her eyes was replaced with something sharper. Recognition. "Took you long enough." Snake pulled a knife, cut her restraints. Susan rubbed her wrists, then bent down and picked up a gun one of the unconscious men had dropped. "Where's Viper?" "Back office. Locked himself in when he heard us coming." Susan checked the chamber. Fully loaded. She walked toward the office door, her steps deliberate despite the limp in her left leg. Snake followed. "Susan, wait." She didn't wait. One kick. The door splintered. Inside, Viper sat behind a desk, gun trained on the doorway. "Stay back!" His voice cracked. "I'll shoot!" Susan stepped through anyway. "You took my daughter's childhood tonight." Her voice was ice. "Made her afraid in her own home. Used her to get to me. I didn't know who you were. You knew enough." She raised the gun. "You knew I walked away. You knew I wanted peace, and you took that as weakness." Viper's hands shook. "I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. I swear." "You're right." Snake heard the gunshot from the doorway. When he entered, Viper was clutching his shoulder, screaming. Susan had put the bullet precisely, painful but not fatal. She dropped the gun on the desk. "Call an ambulance. Tell them it was self-defense." Snake stared at her. "You're just gonna let him live?" Susan looked at him, and he saw the woman Marcus had described, the architect of peace, the queen who'd walked away from her throne. "My daughter deserves a mother, not a murderer." She walked past him. "But make sure he understands. If I ever hear his name again, I won't miss twice." If this revenge is hitting different, share this video with someone who loves watching karma work overtime. They need to see this. Riverside Drive. Marcus's phone buzzed. Snake. "Package secured. She's good. Heading your way." Relief flooded through him, but he kept his face neutral. "Your mom's safe," he told Emma. "She's coming here." Emma's sob was equal parts relief and exhaustion. Outside, engines approached. Different rhythm. Heavier. Snake's crew, and with them. Susan appeared in the doorway. Bloodied, limping, alive. "Mom!" Emma broke free from Marcus's protective stance and ran. Susan caught her daughter, nearly stumbling from the impact, but she held on. Held her like she'd never let go. Over Emma's shoulder, Susan's eyes found Marcus. No words, just a nod. "Thank you." Marcus nodded back. Debt paid. Then, cutting through the moment, sirens. Multiple units closing fast. Crow appeared at Marcus's shoulder. "Cops, 2 minutes out, maybe less." Marcus looked at the scene. Unconscious kidnappers, broken furniture, spent casings, a teenage girl who'd been terrorized, a mother who'd just escaped captivity. This could go very wrong, very fast. Susan met his eyes again, and he saw the calculation there. She was already 3 steps ahead. "Everyone out," Marcus ordered his crew. "Now, back roads, split up, no formations." "What about—" Tank started. "I'll handle it." His crew hesitated, but only for a second. They knew better than to argue when Marcus used that tone. The bikes roared to life and vanished into the night. The sirens grew louder. Marcus looked at Susan. "Can you explain this?" She pulled Emma closer. "I'll tell them the truth. Mostly." "Mostly?" "Home invasion. Kidnapping. You're a concerned family friend who arrived in time." Her smile was thin. "I've talked my way out of worse." The sirens were on the street now. Red and blue lights painted the walls. Marcus headed for the back door, but Susan's voice stopped him. "Marcus." He turned. "When Emma's older," Susan said quietly, "I'm going to tell her who you really are. What you did tonight. You don't owe me. I'm not doing it for you." Her hand rested on Emma's head. "I'm doing it so she knows what real protection looks like." Marcus nodded once. Then he disappeared into the shadows. Police cars screeched to a stop out front. And Susan Waller prepared to tell her story. The police took 3 hours. Susan sat on the couch, her couch, in her home, with Emma pressed against her side, and answered every question with the kind of calm that came from years of practice. Yes, 3 men had broken in. Yes, they'd taken her while her daughter hid. No, she didn't know why they'd targeted her. Yes, a family friend had arrived in time. No, she didn't get his name in the chaos. The detective, a tired woman named Richardson, didn't look entirely convinced, but the evidence was clear enough. Forced entry, zip tie marks on Susan's wrists, a terrified teenage girl, security footage from a neighbor's camera showing the kidnapper's van. By dawn, the police were gone. Susan locked the door behind them, leaned against it, and finally let herself exhale. Emma hadn't left her side, not once. "Mom," she said quietly, "who was that man? The one on the bike?" Susan looked at her daughter, 16 years old, brave beyond measure, and owed the truth. "Sit down, baby. We need to talk." They sat on the couch, and Susan began. "Before you were born, I was someone different. I didn't work in event planning. I didn't live a quiet life." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I controlled something. A network. People who moved products, protected territories, kept order in a world most people don't see." Emma's eyes widened. "Like a gang? More organized than that? More structured?" Susan took her daughter's hand. "I was good at it. Too good. And I realized something. If I stayed, you'd grow up in that world. You'd never have a choice to be anything else. So you left." "I walked away."
"Gave my territory to someone I trusted, someone who'd earned it."
Susan's voice softened.
"That man tonight, Marcus, he was part of that world. I saved his life once. He repaid that debt tonight."
Emma processed this, her mind working through implications.
Does he want you to come back?"
"No." Susan smiled slightly. "Marcus understands what I chose. He respects it. Do you ever regret it? Leaving?" Susan pulled Emma closer. "Not for a single second." They sat in silence as the sun rose, painting the living room in soft gold. Emma's voice was small when she spoke again. "I was so scared. I know, baby, I'm sorry. But you taught me what to do." Emma looked up at her mother. "The way you showed me how to move quietly, how to stay calm, how to hide. You were preparing me, weren't you?" Susan's throat tightened. "I hoped you'd never need it. But I did. And I survived because of you." Susan kissed her daughter's forehead, holding back tears. "We should leave," Emma said suddenly. "Move somewhere they can't find us." "No." Susan's voice was firm. "We're not running. This is our home. We're not giving that up." "But what if they come back?" "They won't." "How do you know?" Susan stood, walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. Normal. But she knew better. Somewhere out there, Marcus and his crew were making sure the message was clear. Susan Waller and her daughter were untouchable. "Because the people who did this learned a very expensive lesson tonight," Susan said. "And word spreads fast in that world." 3 days later, Marcus stood in the clubhouse, watching his crew celebrate. Viper's organization had collapsed. His men had scattered. His territory was being absorbed peacefully, divided among crews that understood the rules. Order restored. Tank approached with 2 beers, handed one over. "You thinking about her?" Marcus didn't pretend not to know who he meant. "She made her choice. You could ask her to come back. The city could use someone like her again." "The city managed without her." Marcus took a drink. "And she's got something more important now." "The kid." "The kid." Marcus's expression softened slightly. "Susan built something better than power. She built a future." Tank studied him. "You ever think about doing that? Walking away?" Marcus didn't answer. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Thank you doesn't cover it. But thank you anyway. S. He smiled, started to type a response. Then another message came through. Different number. One he recognized. His smile disappeared. Reaper, we need to meet. Viper wasn't working alone. Ghost. Ghost. A name Marcus hadn't heard in 5 years. A player who operated in shadows so deep even Susan hadn't been able to track him. If Ghost was reaching out, something bigger was moving. Something that made Viper look like a warm-up. Marcus forwarded the message to Susan. Her reply came within seconds. I'm retired, Marcus. He typed back. I know. Just thought you should be aware. How serious? Don't know yet. But if Ghost is involved... 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, keep me updated. I'll keep Emma safe. But Marcus, if this touches my family again, retirement ends. He understood. Susan had walked away from one world to protect her daughter. But if that world came for them again? The Queen wouldn't just return, she'd burn it all down. Marcus pocketed his phone and turned to Tank. Get the crew together. What's going on? We've got a meeting to prepare for. Tank's eyes narrowed. Ghost? Ghost. Thought he was dead. So did I. Marcus headed for his bike. Guess we were wrong. Outside, storm clouds gathered on the horizon. The calm was over. And somewhere in the darkness, something far more dangerous than Viper was watching. Waiting. Emma slept for 14 hours straight. Susan sat in the chair beside her daughter's bed, watching the rise and fall of her breathing, the peace on her face that had been absent for 3 days. The house had been cleaned, windows replaced, locks reinforced. But Susan knew security didn't come from deadbolts. It came from respect and fear. Her phone buzzed quietly. Marcus. Ghost wants to meet tomorrow night. Neutral ground. You should stay away. Susan looked at Emma, still sleeping, finally safe. She typed back. I intend to. But Marcus, whatever Ghost wants, don't give him an opening. He doesn't make moves unless he's 3 steps ahead. I remember. Do you remember what I told you about him 5 years ago? A pause. Then, that he's the only player you couldn't predict. Exactly. Be careful. Always am. Susan set the phone down and returned her attention to Emma. Tomorrow they'd talk about therapy, about security systems, about what normal looked like after a night like that. But tonight, her daughter slept. And that was enough. 2 weeks later, the city found its rhythm again. Viper's crew dissolved, his territory redistributed. The violence that could have erupted never materialized because Marcus held the line with the same steady hand Susan had taught him. She watched from a distance. Not physically. She stayed home, focused on Emma, on rebuilding the quiet life they'd carved out. But she listened, heard things, kept one ear to the ground the way she always had. Ghost's meeting had happened. Marcus hadn't shared details, but whatever was discussed, it ended peacefully. For now. Susan knew better than to think it was over. Men like Ghost didn't surface without reason. But that was Marcus's problem now. She'd made her choice years ago, and she'd make it again. Emma found her mother in the kitchen one morning, coffee in hand, staring out the window. You're thinking about going back, Emma said quietly. Susan turned, surprised. What? To that world. The one you left. Emma sat at the table. I can see it in your face sometimes, like you're listening to something I can't hear. Susan set her coffee down, joined her daughter at the table. I won't lie to you, Em. Part of me misses it. The clarity, the control, knowing exactly where you stand and what the rules are.
So why don't you? Because I chose you.
Susan took her daughter's hand.
I chose this life, this home, your future, and I don't regret it.
Emma squeezed back.
Even after everything that happened? Especially after everything that happened.
Susan's voice was firm. What happened proved I made the right choice. I built something here worth protecting, worth fighting for. We could have died, but we didn't, because I taught you how to survive, and because I had friends who remembered what I'd done for them. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then,
can I meet him? Marcus?
Susan considered this.
Maybe.
Someday, when things are calmer. Will things ever be calm?
I don't know,
Susan admitted.
but that's not a reason to live in fear. It's a reason to live prepared.
Emma smiled, small but real.
You sound like a badass.
I am a badass, Susan said, smiling back. I just choose to be a quiet one. Hit subscribe if you believe the most dangerous people are the ones you never see coming, because this story proves that underestimating quiet strength is the deadliest mistake anyone can make. 1 month later, Marcus sat on his bike outside Emma's school, engine off, watching from across the street. He'd been checking in. Not every day, not obviously. Just enough to know they were safe. He saw Susan's car pull up, saw Emma emerge from the building, backpack slung over one shoulder, laughing with friends. Normal. Exactly what Susan had wanted for her. Susan spotted him across the street. Their eyes met. She didn't wave, didn't acknowledge him publicly. Just a slight nod. Thank you. Marcus nodded back. You're welcome. Then he started his engine and rode away. Behind him, Susan watched until he disappeared around the corner. Then she turned to her daughter. Ready to go home? Emma smiled. Yeah, I'm starving. They drove home through streets that felt safer now. Not because the danger was gone. Danger was always there. But because they'd faced it and survived. That night, Emma sat on her bed, phone in hand, scrolling through the messages from that night. She'd saved them all. The fear. The instructions, the promise that help was coming. She stopped on the first message she'd sent.
He took Mom. I'm alone in the dark. Please, if anyone sees this, help me.
Wrong number. Random chance. A mistake that saved their lives. She scrolled to Marcus's first response.
Who took her?
Not sorry. Wrong number. Not call the police. Just immediate action. Emma opened a new message. Typed carefully. I don't know if you'll see this. I don't even know if this is still your number, but I wanted to say thank you for answering, for coming, for saving us. Emma. She hit send. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Wrong numbers happen for a reason, kid. Stay safe. M. Emma smiled, set her phone down, and turned off the light. Outside, the city hummed with life. Engines in the distance. Sirens. Laughter. The ordinary chaos of existence. And somewhere in that noise, a network of protection hummed beneath the surface. Invisible. Unspoken. But absolute. Power doesn't need to be loud. Susan had learned that years ago. Protection doesn't need permission. Marcus had proven that the night he rode toward danger without hesitation. And some wrong numbers are answered for a reason. Emma closed her eyes, finally at peace. In the darkness, she whispered to herself, I sent that text by mistake, but he answered on purpose. And in that answer, everything had changed. If this story of hidden power, unbreakable loyalty, and the kind of revenge that doesn't need to announce itself left you speechless, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss when karma delivers the perfect ending. Comment below what hit you hardest about this story, and while you're at it, check out the next video on screen because trust me, you'll want to see what happens when disrespect meets its match. Thanks for watching, and remember, the quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous one.